Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Let's Go Karaoke Season 1, Episode 3. Great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, we have, we had that opening where it was, Kyoji following a guy, and I wondered if that was what that was about. We find out what it is at the end of the episode, but that guy that's kind of getting drugs, I was like, I wonder, because I didn't even pay attention to his hands, but I assumed like, well, he had just talked about it last episode about the guy whose finger got cut off because the boss had to let him go because it's like, yo, you're like too hooked on the drugs and stuff like that. I didn't know if it was either that or maybe these are people selling drugs in their territory and they're trying to nip that in the bud. I felt like if it was that, like, Kyoji would have acted quicker, but the fact is he's just keeping an eye out. I mean, but you could always just be like, oh, let me see where the drugs are coming from and follow it higher up the chain. That's one way it could have been, but my immediate thought was potentially like, oh, it's got to be the guy that got kicked out. Either way, we also have Satomi. Obviously, when they're practicing for the choir singing, and the teacher's asking him to sing louder and sing louder, but he's singing so low for I think a multitude of reasons. One, because if he sings high, that's when the voice problems start kicking in, and two, if he's singing lower, it means like maybe any mishaps he might be having won't be as apparent. And Wada is there noticing like what's going on, and so he listens to Satomi practice and how strained his voice is, and he's like, if you want me to, I can talk to the teacher, I can handle your solo parts, and then you can save up your voice for the actual competition, because he's like, you practicing so much is going to like cause more issues. And Satomi snaps at him because for him it's like there's so much riding on this, he's putting so much pressure on himself because he feels like there's so much to it, because obviously I think this is very important to Satomi. He found like something that he's good at, and he feels like he found his place, and he's slowly been losing that, and that doubt he's feeling, that insecurity has been eroding and eating away at him. And so for people to say, it becomes that situation of you have all your doubts about yourself, and it's like, and you can say something to yourself over and over again. At least this is how I feel, and this is how I operate. Then when you can say something to yourself over and over again, but the moment someone else points out that flaw or issue that you have with yourself, like they're not doing it to be mean, but the moment they point out that insecurity that you have, because they're just making an observation, it cuts 1,000 times deeper. Like I said, I don't know if everyone feels that way. I do. So I think that's what it was, and that's why he especially considering Wada is his understudy, so it feels like he's taking it extra hard, because it's like, you want me to kind of sit on the sidelines while you get to sing the part, and it's just, he's taking a lot of his personal frustrations about his situation and his voice, and he's putting that on Wada, and Wada just kind of walks away. He does apologize, but it's still the thing of, he recognizes it himself, like, me practicing so hard is doing more harm than good. Because I think it's, there's multiple levels to this as well. It's like, I'm continuously practicing, and that's putting more strain on myself because I'm pushing myself more and more, and I'm not probably getting the proper rest. Because I'm so like adamant, and I'm not even practicing in the best way to protect my voice, because I'm so nervous about things going wrong that I'm pushing myself beyond my limits, and I won't acknowledge that I'm pushing myself. There's also the fact that he's like, oh, I'm also practicing in a way to protect my voice, so but you end up overcompensating because of the stress and the worry, so you end up undoing any good you can get from it. Becomes immediately not even just a moot point, it becomes a negative at that point. You're actually doing more harm than, if it was just a neutral thing, that's one thing, but you're actually worsening yourself. So, and I think it is this interesting parallel that Kyoji's voice is kind of getting worse too. So, Satomi ends up like giving him a list of things like, this, and this should be what you should do. And he's like, oh, give me a second, let me write it down. And so, obviously, Kyoji's really worried about it, about the competition, and even, Satomi's like, yo, why don't you just like get like a vocal coach or something like that? He's like, I'm not going to. Because it's like, oh, why don't you take that Aniki you talked about before? He's like, I don't want to do that, because he's like two grown men going to like a vocal school lessons like that. He's like, it feels weird. He also brings up because Satomi had suggested, like, why don't you, like, if you're really that worried about getting tattooed and stuff like that, why don't you just tell the boss a thing that you like and pretend that you hate it? That way he'll give it to you. And he's like, well, that's one way. But then he's like, it's kind of still a moot point because even if it's something I like, he's such a shit tattoo artist that is going to look like shit, even if it is something that I like. It's like none of this would even be a concern to me if the boss was a better tattoo artist. We wouldn't even have to worry about that. Um, but I also love that Kyoji's also like, but wait a minute, why are we coming at this from the same perspective of, oh, we're immediately assuming I'm gonna lose and I'm gonna get tattooed? Why are we coming from that pessimistic standpoint? Like I'm immediately lost. Like this is it's just a done deal that I'm going to get tattooed. But we also find out that the day is August 11th, the same day as Satomi's competition. So it's like it's kind of a fate, a meeting of destinies and fate for both of them. It's like for it to be on the same day, an important day like that, especially considering Kyoji didn't know that was like the same day as his choir competition. I don't think so. He's like, it's interesting. So Satomi has suggested like they make it so that this day is like their last day going to karaoke together because he's like we should practice. You should go and practice separately, and also it allows Satomi to start practicing on his own, focusing more on his choir stuff. Because I'm like, I think obviously he's using that as an excuse because looking after like Kyoji and listening to it because he's like, well, for one, Kyoji like singing in front of me and stuff like that might be doing him more harm than good in the long run, but also like, it's distracting me from my choir stuff so I can fully focus on it. But there was also a part of him that was sad, so that to me proves like, no, it is BS. It's just you're thinking like, finally I'll be free of the yakuza in my life, but it's like, well, you had an opportunity to cut them out, but you kept coming back because you like this, and even he can't quite understand why he does. Why he's feeling a little sad about the fact is he won't be able to see Kyoji on a very regular basis. I mean, even to the point he's like, yeah, like, eventually you get so used to like people texting you and stuff like that becomes a mundane part of your life. So having a Yakuza member just like randomly text me like, yo, let's head up to karaoke, it just became like almost an everyday thing for him. And so they end up like stopping at a stoplight, which I think is very like the larger, I don't know, symbolism there where they're stopping at the stoplight and they kind of have a nice heart to heart because it's like, aren't those kids from the same school as you? And Satomi blocks his head, but he looks like, no, that's a completely different uniform. And he's actually like, if it wasn't for kids from your school, like, well, we would have probably never met. And he brings up the fact is that he was like, I think one of the members from their family ended up going and like to I guess listen to them or something like that, and eventually went off to get like practice, and that motivated the others to practice. And so he was even going to go to like a music room until he heard some choir kids going by. He saw the notice about like a choir competition and he heard everything, and that's why he didn't plan on that initially. It's just he stumbled across like, there's gonna be this competition here, so that's why he decided to show up. And he listened and he got swept up in it because he was like, I assumed choirs would mainly be girls, but obviously there's boys as well. Obviously, Satomi isn't the only boy in this particular choir either, but for Kyoji, all that kind of motivated him because it's like, if boys can be in a choir and they can sound like this too, like you could be the one to help me. And kind of getting swept up in the music of it all made him go like, well, like there might be something here to it. But obviously for Satomi, it's like, that's such a weird reason and happenstance that led you to me, crazily enough. But yeah, Satomi kind of sends him on his way home, and it's like, hey, also, like, if you want to meet up with me, just for whatever reason, you can always hit me up. And he's like, no, and just kind of like, I think he slams the door. He's like, hey, Satomi, come on, man. The car's very expensive, and just kind of waves him away. Just kind of like with that kind of big old smile of his, and waves Satomi away. Obviously, at this point, they've got 2 more weeks until the fated day for both Kyoji and Satomi. And at one point, Satomi is still continuing to practice, and he talks to Wada about everything. Like, you don't. Oh, because I forgot. Like a very important part of that heart to heart that they had, and that, once again, the parallels and the symbolism of just when they finished that conversation is when the light had turned green. But before, like, Satomi had left, because Satomi was just kind of saying, like, I'm not really the best person. Like, for him, it's almost like if you fail, then that means all the effort you put into it was kind of a waste. So he feels like not only he's wasting his own time if he doesn't succeed, but also Kyoji's. And Kyoji comes from the perspective of, well, I won't know if I don't try, and I can't win unless I try. It's just the fear of failure has basically paralyzed him, and it made him think, like, if I fail, it's not only me, I'm wasting so many other people's time, not only Kyoji, but the rest of the choir, because he feels like he let everyone down, because he is the head of the choir. So it's like, for him, he's shouldering a lot of that responsibility and making it his own, even though this is a shared thing. But, the solo he's gotten, stuff like that. And as the head of the choir, he just feels like he's taking a lot of that on himself that he doesn't need to. But when it's all said and done, though, it did strike a chord with him. Like, right, it is worth trying. And so when he's talking to Wada later, Wada's like, you don't have to do this. Like, I know, like, I don't want to come off a certain way, but, like, you don't have to push yourself through this. But he's like, but I want to. He's like, I want to try. Even if I fail, I want to try. And Wada's like, I understand. Then he's like, and brings up, like, you inspired me. The fact is that, you were there for me, gave me practice on what I should do. But Satomi's almost like, well, yeah, I was ahead of the choir, so I didn't kind of go specifically out of my way. I was just fulfilling my duty. But it's like, regardless of it, the fact is you took the time, it meant a lot to Wada. And so for him, it's like, if you need me to, like, I'm not necessarily going to replace you. I'm going to sing alongside of you. And, like, you want to rush to that, like, head to the finish line by yourself, I'll stay by your side and help you in that regard. Like, let me sing with you. And he's like, I'll count on you. So, and then the 2 weeks pass pretty quickly. It's literally the day before the competition. His mom knows about it, and I figured she would, but I thought she'd find a pamphlet or something. It's like, no, his music teacher emailed her, so she ended up buying him a good charm. But then his brother's also like, well, while I was in Tokyo, I got you a good charm. Also, his dad, I actually got you one too. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys. But at the very least, it's kind of nice, because his family knows how big a deal this is. It's like, this is your final time. Like, you guys are going to graduate. This is your final choir. Like, those who are about to graduate and everything. So it's kind of all on the line. So kind of put, best of luck. And one of the charms, seeing it made Satomi go like, you know what? I'm gonna send one to Kyoji. I need to, because I want to give it to him because his competition is going to be on the same day. I don't know why he didn't simply just text Kyoji before going, but I think it's twofold, because he thinks, like, if I contact him, it's just going to end up looking like I want to see him and I'm too embarrassed to, like, let that be the appearance. But also, like, he didn't really understand Kyoji's map that he drew of the area, like, yo, don't come here, it's dangerous. And he's like, right, I can't go. And he still managed to, and went anyway. And he got lost. I was like, it's not the right territory, especially, like, you're walking down an alley. Granted, it's broad daylight, but still, come on, my guy. And then he got turned around, ended up bumping into a guy, the guy that Kyoji was following at the beginning of the episode. It turns into a whole thing. Satomi's like breaking down, crying. He's like, the fact of the matter is, like, I didn't even have to throw a rock to, like, hit a scary dude. I just happened to turn and bump into one. And he's apologizing and crying up a storm. And then Kyoji comes over and I was like, hey, what's going on? I think what he called him, like, QQ or something like that. Like, kind of like a cute nickname. And it's like, oh yeah, look at this kid. And Kyoji's pretending like he doesn't know him. And then proceeds to whack him in the head with a suitcase. And it's like, hey, yo, shit just got real. But then he, like, blocks the blood from flying onto Satomi. And it's like, yeah, kind of having to explain everything. It's like, yeah, the guy, the finger that you found the other day, yeah, that was that guy. So, yeah, he got kicked out because of drugs. He was crying and pleading and begging that he'd stop. And lo and behold, what did I do? I catch him still buying drugs. In fact, it's worse than ever. In fact, if I hadn't come in, like that's literally the worst person you, Satomi, could have run into in that moment, because God knows what that situation would have led to. Probably would have tried to get you hooked on drugs and stuff. So that's a whole snafu that we luckily avoided. But it's like, yeah, why were you in the area in the first place? It's like, oh yeah, your competition's tomorrow. He's like, good luck. He's like, yeah, I know you'll sing with ease and stuff like that. But the moment he's saying all that, because Kyoji doesn't know like how much Satomi's really struggling with that, because he's kept so much of that to himself. He's never really expressed, like, the only person who has an idea to some degree, not fully, but to some degree, is Wada. So he hasn't really expressed these concerns and worries with his parents or his teacher or anyone else in the choir. He hasn't really talked to anyone about it. He's internalized so much of it. So when Kyoji, without meaning anything bad by it, kind of twist the knife unintentionally about like, oh, you're going to sing with ease because I know you have a great voice and you'll kill it. Like, it pisses Satomi off, and he yells at him like, what do you mean singing with ease? You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Throws the charm at him and runs away. And even he recognizes, like, why was I getting so mad? Like, it was just bubbling up underneath me, under the surface. And he's like, I ran away. I couldn't even really understand why I was crying, because I was just so frustrated. And sometimes, like, stuff that hits you so much that you don't even know why you're crying. He's like, I was acting immature and childish in this moment. But it's like, no one's going to know like what you're going through if you don't tell them. People aren't mind readers. Some people are very good at picking it up. Sure, they notice the signs. Wado is in you there with the choir with you. He's peeked in on you practicing, so he knows a little bit more than maybe the other members of the choir or even the music teacher knows. So, because outside of that choir competition where they won silver, that's the only time Kyoji has heard Satomi sing, so he doesn't know, like, because he brought it up early, like, I think in the first episode about the whole conversation about puberty and stuff, but, nothing ever really came about, because I guess maybe he felt like that was a sore spot, so he never really wanted to bring it up, because he thought, like, right, you're a great teacher, I'm thankful for you, so I'm like, yeah, the guys are grateful for the lessons you gave them last episode, so I know I don't have to be worried as much, but, Satomi did realize how he was acting. He's like, oh, I'm going to apologize. And in that moment, Kyoji's kind of busting his balls a little bit by, like, texting him, like, oh, you sound like this. Like, you're usually so calm and everything. And now, like, oh, looking at you fly off the handle is kind of, like, almost cute. But then he's like, yeah, sorry about that. Just when, like, Satomi's like, oh, just go off and die, and is about to block him. He doesn't text him that, but thanks it. But Kyoji apologizes. He's like, yeah, sorry about that. Make sure you get home safe. It's also, what was this charm about? And then, like, Kyoji never hears back from Satomi. He's like, man, what a little brat. But the whole thing stayed with Satomi. I think if Satomi had probably reached out to Kyoji, it probably would have made him feel better. Maybe. Because the stress of the choir was no longer his issue. The Kyoji of it all was what was stressing him out. So maybe, but he's like, oh, like, I'm thinking about that emoji. It's haunting me, and I couldn't get a good night rest. So now you're like nervous, and you didn't rest well. So the worst possible thing before a competition. But then we kind of get like kind of a scary ending for the episode where it turns out that there was a car accident, and they even kind of saying like, oh, was it a Yakuza person? Before they even said it was Kyoji's car, if you notice the license plate, like, they don't focus on it but like you can see it, it's in frame. It's the camera's a little zoomed out, but it's distinctly Kyoji because they made a point to show you his license plate earlier in the episode. What was the number's like, I think, and it like 90. It's something like it's distinctly his, and then you find out it's like it is Kyoji's. Apparently, it seemed like maybe he got rear sideswiped, and apparently the hit and runner like actually ran, but apparently Kyoji's in pretty bad shape. It probably won't be life threatening. Who knows? There could be lasting effects, or maybe it's like, hey, he's a little rough, but at the end of the day, he'll be okay. I mean, you don't know. This story could go the depressing route, but I think for Satomi, it hits him because it's like, for one, he said like that line of like, why don't you just go off and die or something, because he was pissed, and like, he didn't respond to Kyoji, and it's like I gave him the good luck charm and stuff like that, and it's like, well, maybe that good luck charm will come out to help him out in the end because it will keep him alive, but he'll probably end up missing his fated karaoke date. Well, same thing for Satomi missing the competition, or maybe he'll feel the need to like, cause maybe it'll come down to the wire of like trying to get there, like check in on Kyoji and then making it to the competition because he's trying to call Kyoji, but Kyoji's not picking up. So his phone might not be on him. I feel like you probably would have heard it if it was in the car or the cops would be like, oh, his phone's ringing or something, but that didn't come up. And so now Satomi's worried about that. And I'm so curious to see, like I said, how he handles that. Does he try to track down the hospital Kyoji's in to see him? And does he miss his competition? Does he tell Wada, no, you handle it. I'm going to let you handle this because I want to check on my friend? Or, does he use that to fuel him for his performance? Either pre-seeing Kyoji and finding out he's okay or after finding out? We'll ultimately have to wait to see how this all fares. I was looking this up last episode. I think this series, and it makes sense, is only like maybe 5 or 6 episodes. I saw some places saying 6. I saw more places saying 5. So that's why things are kind of going fast so quickly. Like we immediately skip like 2 weeks. But it's like them going to karaoke together is a big part of the story. So I wonder, does the manga also kind of skip it? Because it's only like one volume of a manga. It's like it's a one and done story. Not one shot wise, but like volume wise, it's only one volume. So I don't know how many chapters that necessarily entails. So the pacing of the anime, considering how short the anime is, must mean like the pacing of the manga must exactly be the same. I mean, to the point it was adapted into like a live action movie as well, too. But again, I'm going on tangent. Well, no, the movie hasn't come out yet. I think the movie comes out later this month, I believe, if I remember correctly. I might be conflating that with something else. So I'm almost curious to see like what the pacing of it will be. Like I said, will checking on Kyoji and the competition, like the choir competition, the final one for like the choir festival, will that be all of that next episode? And then maybe in episode 5 will be kind of like the wrap up epilogue, kind of like being able to kind of take that sigh of relief and breathe nicely because everything's already behind you. I'm curious to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.